Bray Road. In the rural stretches of Walworth County, Wisconsin, a quiet 4-mile stretch of pavement known as Bray Road cuts through isolated farmland and dense patches of woods. By day, it serves as a simple connector for local traffic, but its isolation gives it a very different reputation among area residents after sunset. Teenagers and young adults often seek out its seclusion, using the road as a makeshift party spot or a classic lover's lane, far from the supervision of nearby towns like Elkhorn. This dual identity, however, masks a more sinister undercurrent that begins to surface in a series of disturbing local accounts which challenge the road's benign reputation. Because of its well-known use for late-night gatherings, initial reports of strange occurrences along Bray Road are often dismissed by authorities as youthful pranks or misidentifications in the dark. Yet a consistent pattern emerges from the stories of sober, frightened witnesses who report seeing something large and animalistic stalking the remote roadside. This is not merely the shadow of a deer or a common black bear, but a bipedal creature with canine features and an unnerving intelligence that observers repeatedly mention. The accumulation of these independent sightings transforms the local folklore, because the darkness haunting this lonely stretch of asphalt and terrifying its residents now has a name. These early, scattered accounts from the 1980s soon give way to a wave of official reports in 1991, forcing local media to take the stories seriously. Mark SCHACKELMAN. Decades before the modern wave of sightings, the first officially documented encounter occurs in neighboring Jefferson County in 1936, involving a night watchman named Mark SCHACKELMAN. While driving his rural route, SCHACKELMAN observes a strange figure standing atop a prominent Native American burial mound, a detail that adds a layer of historical weight to his testimony. He slows his vehicle to get a better look, reporting that the entity was a large, hairy creature with distinctly canine features. According to his formal statement, it was furiously digging into the consecrated ground with its bare hands, seemingly oblivious to his presence on the road. The most disturbing element of SCHACKELMAN's report, however, is his claim that the creature was audibly chanting in a guttural, inhuman language as it worked. Because the witness was a sober and credible local employee, his account is so unsettling that it is formally recorded by local authorities. This record therefore establishes a historical precedent for the creature's existence, even though it remains an isolated incident for many years and occurs well outside the Bray Road hot zone. This lone 1936 report stands as a single, unnerving data point for over 40 years, creating a long period of silence before a similar beast is reported again. The quiet years. Following the unnerving 1936 account from Mark SCHACKELMAN, the creature seemingly disappears from southeastern Wisconsin, leading to a 50-year period devoid of any official reports or documented encounters. Without new witnesses or physical evidence to sustain public concern, the original incident is gradually relegated from a frightening anomaly to the realm of local mythology. The story of the chanting canine-like figure therefore transforms into a regional ghost story, a narrative more often shared around a campfire than inside a police station. Parents throughout the area reportedly use the tale as a cautionary device to discourage their children from venturing too close to the woods or staying out late on rural roads. Throughout these quiet decades, the narrative survives purely through oral tradition, becoming a familiar but unsubstantiated piece of Walworth County folklore. The creature exists not as a tangible threat, but as a local boogeyman, an explanation for unsettling sounds in the dark, or a thrilling story told on a dare. This long period of dormancy is critical because it establishes a baseline of normalcy against which the coming wave of encounters will be measured by both residents and investigators. For 2 generations, the beast remains a legend, a chilling but ultimately harmless story, confined to the imagination of local residents and far from the concerns of law enforcement. The half-century of folkloric tranquility comes to an abrupt and terrifying end on Halloween night in 1989, when a new witness reports a close-range encounter on Bray Road itself. Linda Godfrey. The initial trickle of modern reports finds its chronicler in Linda Godfrey, a journalist working for the local newspaper, the Walworth County Week. While reviewing routine police blotters and community news, she encounters a bizarre animal sighting report from 1989 that does not align with any known native wildlife in the region. The witness's description of a large, wolf-like creature walking on 2 legs is so unusual that it immediately captures her professional attention, prompting her to investigate further. Recognizing that this story may be part of a larger, unreported pattern, she decides to formally collect any similar accounts that may surface from the community. Acting on journalistic instinct, Godfrey creates a new file folder specifically for this strange and unverified phenomenon, a place to consolidate any future witness statements, official reports, or anecdotal evidence. Because the descriptions are so consistently monstrous and canine in nature, she gives the folder a simple, chilling label: werewolf. This single act transforms her from a local reporter into the de facto investigator and central repository for all information related to the creature. It is a decision that will ultimately lead her to write several definitive books on the subject. Little does she know at the time, this folder, which starts with just a single report, is about to become dangerously full. Linda Godfrey's investigation provides a credible outlet for terrified witnesses, and as a result, the early 1990s see an unprecedented explosion of first-hand encounters on Bray Road. The spark. In the final years of the 1980s, a slow but steady stream of unusual reports begins to reach Walworth County law enforcement, creating a disturbing new pattern of animal encounters. The initial sightings describe a large, hairy creature that witnesses first mistake for a bear or an oversized dog moving on all 4s along the desolate roadway. However, these accounts consistently contain a profoundly unsettling detail. The creature is also observed rising onto its hind legs to stand and walk like a man. This bipedal movement is what distinguishes the sightings from any known animal in North America, and therefore it poses a significant challenge for animal control officers attempting to classify the reports. The consistency of this detail across multiple independent reports suggests that the witnesses are not describing different animals, but are instead encountering the very same entity. Analysis of these early reports reveals a distinct geographical focus, with the majority of sightings occurring along the 4-mile stretch of Bray Road itself. This concentration of activity leads witnesses and later investigators to conclude that the creature is not simply passing through the area, but is instead actively using the road as its specific territory or hunting ground. The behavior is described as predatory and deliberate, as if it is patrolling a fixed route, which only adds to the growing fear among local residents who must travel the road after dark. Because the creature is seen both running on 4 legs and walking upright, it demonstrates a tactical adaptability that defies easy explanation. This perceived intelligence transforms the phenomenon from a simple cryptid sighting into a more immediate and calculated threat to public safety. This pattern of systematic territorial behavior observed in the late 1980s culminates in a series of high-profile encounters in the early 1990s, beginning with the terrifying roadside incident involving Doris Gibson. Doris Gibson. On the night of October 31, 1991, a local woman named Doris Gibson is driving home alone on Bray Road when she experiences a direct and violent confrontation. As she proceeds along the unlit pavement, her vehicle's front tire suddenly strikes something heavy and solid in the darkness, causing her to slow down. Before she can fully process the impact, a massive dark form rises from the roadside and charges directly at her car with shocking speed. The creature then leaps onto the trunk of her vehicle, and she feels the entire rear suspension compress under its immense weight, confirming it is not merely a shadow or a deer. Terrified by the physical assault on her car, Doris Gibson immediately floors the accelerator, pushing the engine in a desperate attempt to flee and shake the creature loose. She reports a conscious decision to not look in her rearview mirror, fearing that making eye contact with the entity would only worsen her already terrifying situation. Eventually, the heavy presence on her trunk disappears, either thrown off by the speed or having chosen to leap away, but the encounter leaves her severely traumatized. Because her account involves a direct physical interaction with the creature, an attack rather than a passive sighting, it provides a new and much more dangerous dimension to the phenomenon. The physical nature of Doris Gibson's encounter, complete with alleged claw marks found on her car, emboldens other witnesses to share their own terrifying stories with investigators. LORIANNE ENDRIZZI. Also in 1991, an Elkhorn bar manager named LORIANNE ENDRIZZI provides another critical eyewitness account that reinforces the creature's hybrid nature. While driving home from her late shift, she spots a figure kneeling by the side of the road, its back initially facing her approaching vehicle. Her headlights clearly illuminate a muscular frame covered in gray-brown fur, topped with a head that has distinctly pointed canine-like ears. Because the posture is so strangely human-like, she momentarily considers the possibility of a prankster in a costume, but the authentic animalistic details she observes make that explanation feel entirely inadequate. As her car draws closer, the kneeling figure turns its head, and Endrizzi finds herself staring into a pair of amber-yellow eyes that seem to glow intensely in her headlights. She later reports to Linda Godfrey that this was the moment of absolute certainty because she was looking directly at the face of a wolf on the broad, powerful body of a man. This explicit description of a therianthropic hybrid is a crucial piece of testimony, as it directly aligns with historical werewolf lore and moves the sightings beyond a simple, unidentified animal case. Her detailed and sober account, which she provides to both Godfrey and law enforcement, therefore becomes one of the cornerstones of the Bray Road phenomenon. The combined testimonies of credible witnesses like Doris GIPSON and LORIANNE ENDRIZZI create a media firestorm in Walworth County, escalating public fear to an unprecedented level. Russell Gage. Another significant encounter involves Russell Gage, who is driving with several friends on a rural road near Bray Road one evening when they observe something truly startling. The group of young adults suddenly witnesses a large figure sprinting with impossible speed across an open cornfield adjacent to the pavement. They describe the creature as having the powerful muscular build of a bodybuilder, a detail that immediately rules out any known local animal like a deer or coyote. As the multiple witnesses watch in disbelief, the entity effortlessly clears a wide roadside ditch in a single powerful leap, demonstrating a level of agility and strength that is profoundly unnatural. The speed and focused trajectory of the creature leave the occupants of the car with the distinct and terrifying impression that they have just observed a predator in the middle of a hunt. Because its movement is so direct and purposeful, Gage and his friends believe they have inadvertently interrupted its pursuit of unseen prey, placing them in a potentially dangerous position. This account is particularly valuable to investigators because it is corroborated by multiple people in the same vehicle, significantly reducing the likelihood of a simple misidentification. A shared sighting is much harder to dismiss than a lone driver's testimony. The group's collective testimony therefore adds a critical behavioral component to the profile of the beast, suggesting it is an active and proficient hunter. The Gage account, corroborated by multiple passengers, adds to the growing body of evidence, compelling local law enforcement to launch a formal investigation into the sightings. The Party Road. Bray Road's well-established reputation as a secluded party spot for teenagers frequently places young people in a vulnerable, isolated environment after dark. One such evening, this routine setting for youthful rebellion takes a terrifying turn when a group of friends experiences a flat tire, immobilizing their only means of escape. As they begin the mundane task of changing the tire, an unidentifiable and ferocious scream suddenly erupts from the dense tree line just yards away from them. Immediately following the inhuman cry, the group hears the distinct sound of something massive crashing through the heavy underbrush, its path aimed directly toward their exposed position on the roadside. The sheer power conveyed by the sound of snapping branches and thundering footfalls instantly erases any thought of finishing their repair. Reacting on pure survival instinct, the teenagers immediately abandon the car jack and tools on the pavement, scrambling back into their vehicle in a desperate panic. They manage to drive away on the damaged tire, shredding the rubber but successfully putting distance between themselves and the unseen entity that was audibly closing in on them. This encounter is particularly significant because it portrays the creature not as a passive observer, but as an aggressive aggressor, initiating a charge in response to human presence. The story spreads rapidly through the local high schools, adding a terrifying layer of credibility to the legend and transforming the road's reputation from a fun hangout to a place of genuine peril. The difference between a ghost story and a predator's charge is measured in seconds. The accumulation of these highly aggressive encounters creates widespread panic, forcing Walworth County officials to publicly address the growing threat: animal carnage. While the eyewitness testimonies create a wave of psychological terror, farmers in the agricultural lands surrounding Bray Road begin to discover disturbing physical evidence. They report finding the carcasses of various animals, including wild deer and even their own domesticated calves, left in states of extreme mutilation. The nature of the wounds is profoundly unsettling, as the bodies are not cleanly predated but appear to have been violently shredded and torn apart by a force of incredible strength. Investigators note that the deep claw marks and massive bite wounds do not match the patterns left by any known predators native to Wisconsin, such as coyotes or black bears. The most chilling aspect of these discoveries is the consistent observation that the animal victims are almost never eaten. Rather than killing for food, the unknown predator appears to be killing for sport, or as a brutal display of territorial dominance, leaving the mangled corpses to be found by horrified landowners. This pattern of slaughter without consumption strongly suggests the actions of an abnormal and unusually aggressive animal, a conclusion that greatly alarms both residents and wildlife officials. A typical predator does not waste the energy to kill without feeding. The physical proof of this carnage demonstrates that whatever is stalking Bray Road does not adhere to the understood laws of nature. This tangible evidence of animal mutilation, coupled with the sheer number of credible sightings, leaves local law enforcement with no choice but to take the reports seriously and launch an official investigation. The footprints. In the wake of the animal killings, the investigation uncovers tantalizing physical evidence in the form of strange tracks found in the soft earth near several of the sighting locations. Local authorities and independent researchers successfully create plaster casts of these impressions, preserving what many hope will be definitive proof of the creature's existence. The resulting casts, however, only deepen the mystery, as they display a set of features that do not correspond to any animal known to science. Analysis reveals the tracks are fundamentally canine-like and possess 3 distinct toes, yet the measured stride and gait pattern are unmistakably bipedal, suggesting the long legs and upright walk of a humanoid. Experts immediately rule out common misidentifications because the prints are substantially larger than those of any wolf or dog, and their morphology is completely inconsistent with the 5-toed paw of a black bear. The discovery of these prints provides the first tangible physical evidence to support the seemingly unbelievable witness testimonies of a creature that is both man and beast. Investigators follow the clear trail of footprints as it leads away from the road and into the dense surrounding woods, hoping it will lead to a den or some other physical sign of the creature's lair. This is the moment where they believe a breakthrough is imminent. Frustratingly, the tracks abruptly stop in the middle of the forest, vanishing on ground that should have continued to hold a clear impression. The combination of eyewitness terror and ambiguous physical evidence like the footprints transforms the creature from a local rumor into a full-blown media phenomenon. Misidentified bear. As public fear escalates, skeptics and wildlife officials propose a more rational explanation for the sightings, pointing to Wisconsin's significant black bear population as the most likely source of the phenomenon. They argue that the creature's strange, gaunt appearance could be the result of a common skin disease like mange, which causes severe hair loss and dramatically alters an animal's silhouette, making it look unnatural. Furthermore, bears are well documented to stand and even walk on their hind legs for short distances, a behavior that an alarmed motorist might easily misinterpret as a humanoid posture in the dark. This combination of a diseased appearance and temporary bipedal movement provides a compelling zoological framework that seeks to ground the terrifying reports in biological fact. However, this misidentification theory fails to account for several critical details that are consistently reported by multiple, unrelated witnesses. Many observers, including LORIANNE and ENDRIZZI, are adamant that the creature possessed a distinctly canine head with a long snout and pointed ears, which is anatomically inconsistent with a bear's facial structure. The extreme agility described in the Russell Gage sighting, specifically the ability to sprint at high speed and clear a wide ditch in a single bound, also pushes the limits of typical black bear locomotion. Most importantly, the aggressive and predatory actions, such as Doris GIPSON's report of the beast leaping onto her moving car, represent a form of territorial violence not characteristic of the species. A cornered bear might attack, but this creature initiated the chase. The inability of the misidentified bear theory to satisfy the most dramatic eyewitness accounts ensures that the legend of the Beast of Bray Road only continues to grow in scope and popularity. American Werewolf. As rational explanations like the misidentified bear theory fail to satisfy the details of the most compelling reports, the public narrative shifts dramatically toward a supernatural conclusion. Eyewitnesses speaking to both law enforcement and journalist Linda Godfrey consistently begin to use a single, highly charged word to identify the creature: werewolf. This specific term is chosen over more ambiguous labels like dogman or unidentified animal, which is a critical development because it frames the events within a context of ancient folklore and malevolent horror. The legend, therefore, takes over the official narrative, transforming the phenomenon from a simple zoological mystery into the terrifying story of a classic movie monster brought to life in rural Wisconsin. This embrace of the supernatural is largely fueled by one recurring and deeply unsettling detail from the witness accounts: the creature's intelligent eyes. Multiple independent observers report that when they locked gazes with the beast, they did not see the simple instinct-driven look of a wild animal, but rather a calculating and aware presence that suggested a human-like consciousness. This perception of intelligent malice is what truly terrifies the residents, as it implies the creature is not just a predator, but a thinking entity capable of cruelty and strategy, something that understands the fear it is causing. As a result of these consistent and chilling reports, the nearby town of Elkhorn effectively becomes the new capital of fear for the entire region. The potent combination of werewolf mythology and credible, terrified witnesses soon attracts significant media attention, elevating the story from a local panic to a national news item. The Godfrey Files. In 2003, after more than a decade of diligent investigation, journalist Linda Godfrey publishes her landmark book, The Beast of Bray Road, Tailing Wisconsin's Werewolf. This work serves as the definitive compilation of the phenomenon, meticulously gathering dozens of first-hand accounts that she had personally collected since starting her werewolf file in the late 1980s. The book presents the raw, unfiltered testimonies of local residents, law enforcement officers, and farmers, organizing them into a coherent and terrifying timeline of events. By applying a serious journalistic lens to the seemingly supernatural occurrences, Godfrey provides a credible and accessible platform for the witnesses, lending a new weight to their extraordinary claims. The publication of Godfrey's book immediately acts as a catalyst, transforming the regional panic into a national and then international news story, because it consolidates years of scattered reports into a single compelling narrative. It becomes the primary source for television producers, paranormal researchers, and other media outlets interested in the case. This exposure causes documentary crews and news teams to descend on Walworth County, interviewing the same witnesses Godfrey had so carefully documented. Her work essentially creates the official canon of the Bray Road legend. The book therefore cements the creature's place in the pantheon of modern American cryptids, ensuring the story reaches a global audience. The national success of The Beast of Bray Road inspires a new generation of cryptid investigators and leads to the shocking realization that the Wisconsin sightings are not an isolated case. MONSTERQUEST. In 2006, the growing national profile of the Bray Road legend attracts the attention of the History Channel's popular paranormal investigation series, MONSTERQUEST. The production team deploys a sophisticated array of technology, including high-definition thermal cameras to detect heat signatures in the dark, parabolic microphones to capture distant sounds, and a team of professionally trained scent dogs. Their stated goal is to apply a scientific methodology to the sightings, attempting to either validate or debunk the werewolf claims once and for all. This high-profile investigation represents the most technologically advanced attempt to date to solve the mystery, moving the search for answers from local eyewitness testimony into the realm of forensic analysis. Despite the extensive resources at their disposal, the MONSTERQUEST team's investigation yields ambiguous and ultimately inconclusive results. During their nighttime search, the team's scent dogs successfully lock onto an anomalous trail near a known sighting location, tracking it with great intensity to the edge of a river. At the water's edge, however, the animals become visibly agitated and stubbornly refuse to cross, a behavior their handlers interpret as a sign of profound fear. Meanwhile, the network of thermal cameras and audio recorders captures no definitive visual or auditory evidence of the creature, leaving the team with only the dog's strange reaction, which itself becomes a key piece of the modern legend. The MONSTERQUEST episode's failure to capture definitive proof only reinforces the creature's elusive nature, prompting researchers to look for patterns in similar DOGMAN sightings reported across the entire North American continent. The DOGMAN. As researcher Linda Godfrey continues to document the Wisconsin sightings, her work uncovers a striking pattern of nearly identical encounters occurring in the neighboring state of Michigan. These accounts describe a creature known locally as the Michigan Dogman, a bipedal canine that has been a fixture of regional folklore since the first documented sighting by lumberjacks in 1887. The historical descriptions of the Dogman align almost perfectly with the modern Bray Road reports, detailing a massive, wolf-like creature that walks upright, possesses human-like intelligence, and displays extreme territorial aggression. This discovery is a critical turning point in the investigation because it suggests the Beast of Bray Road may not be a singular, isolated entity. The parallels between the two legends are so profound that they force investigators to ask a much larger and more terrifying question. Are they dealing with individual monsters or an undiscovered species? This hypothesis reframes the phenomenon from a local curiosity into a potential continent-wide biological mystery, postulating the existence of a hidden predator living just on the fringes of human civilization. The idea that a population of large, intelligent bipedal canids could exist undetected is far more disturbing than the concept of a single localized beast. A lone monster can be hunted, but a species implies a permanent threat. The Dogman connection therefore broadens the entire scope of the mystery, linking dozens of seemingly unrelated sightings into a single cohesive narrative. The striking parallels between the Bray Road beast and the Michigan Dogman force investigators to develop broader theories to explain the creature's origin and nature. Recent encounters. Although the intense wave of sightings from the early 1990s has significantly diminished over time, the reports concerning the Beast of Bray Road have never completely stopped. The phenomenon has simply entered a new, more elusive phase, with encounters becoming more sporadic and isolated as the years pass. For example, in 2014, a professional truck driver reported seeing a massive, bipedal creature dash across the busy lanes of Interstate 90 near the Bray Road exit, demonstrating a shocking boldness. His testimony is significant because it places the creature on a major modern thoroughfare, far from the quiet farm roads where it was originally documented, suggesting that its territory may be far larger than previously believed. In addition to these modern visual encounters, physical evidence continues to surface periodically, reinforcing the idea that the creature remains active in the region. A hiker exploring a wooded area near Elkhorn in 2018 discovered a set of massive, unidentifiable tracks pressed deep into the mud, which matched the descriptions of the three-toed prints cast decades earlier. Because these sporadic but consistent reports continue to emerge from credible sources, investigators believe the beast has not left the area, but has instead become more reclusive. This shift in behavior is perhaps a direct result of the intense media scrutiny of the 90s. The quiet that has fallen over Bray Road is therefore not one of peace, but of anticipation, as if the local population is simply waiting for the next inevitable wave of terror. Elkhorn's secret. The town of Elkhorn, the community closest to the center of the phenomenon, now maintains a complex and deeply conflicted relationship with its most famous resident. Because the story has achieved international fame, the Beast of Bray Road has become a significant driver of niche tourism, attracting paranormal enthusiasts and curious travelers who want to see the infamous road for themselves. This commercialization, however, exists in stark contrast to the genuine and persistent fear held by many longtime residents who directly experienced the panic of the early 1990s. For this segment of the population, the creature is not a marketable mascot for T-shirts and local lore. but a traumatic memory that continues to define the region's darker side. This underlying anxiety manifests as a sober and frequently repeated piece of advice given to outsiders and younger generations alike. Locals consistently warn visitors to avoid driving on Bray Road alone, especially after sundown, a caution born directly from the terrifying encounters of Doris GIPSON and LORIANNE ENDRIZZI. The warning is delivered without irony or dramatic flair, because for those who live in the shadow of the legend, the possibility of an encounter remains terrifyingly real. They treat it less like a folktale and more like a permanent wildlife advisory. The decades of eyewitness accounts, physical tracks, and unexplained animal carnage have left a permanent mark on the town's psyche. Therefore, the people of Elkhorn continue to watch the woods and listen to the sounds in the dark, because they know what a person might find on that lonely stretch of pavement, or more terrifyingly, what might find them. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.